The new Shredder arc enemy was released this past Friday, and since then the biggest question in every raider's mind has got to be, how in the hell do you kill these incredibly tanky enemies? Of course, shooting it with everything you got is also a pretty good idea, but I figured, you know what, let's go ahead and test out every damaging utility in the game against these shredders, from light impact grenades to blaze grenades to the new deadline mines or whatever. We tested it all. I also of course tested light ammo, medium ammo, heavy ammo, melee weapons, flame sprays, traps, and even a legendary weapon against them to find out the most efficient way to kill these. We're going to talk about how many of each utility it takes to kill them, as well as shots necessary. So with that information, use it however you please. But yeah, we're not going to be yapping about this too long. Let's dive right into it. I have to start off with the melee weapon, as I did see some people talking about it and some videos on this. This is one of the most inefficient way to deal with these shredders out of this entire list. It's probably the most risky approach, both from a PvE and a PvP standpoint, and you're likely going to get hurt quite a few times, assuming you don't completely die. And you're also probably going to be taking quite a while to kill it, and on top of that, you're going to be constantly burning through stamina, meaning if a player shows up and wants to end your run, you're not going to really have much spare stamina to run away with. I can't speak for players who have points into effortless swing and sky clearing swings, but I can speak for the ones who don't. So for those of you that don't, just avoid this entirely. For those of you that do, you might want to test it for yourself. Let's move on to utilities and see what we can effectively use against them. Starting off with the Blaze Grenade, which is a fantastic choice for leapers. The story sadly does not repeat here against the shredders. 3 Blaze Grenades and you'll leave it on fire just a few shots away from death. You can maximize your blade grenade damage output if you throw a blaze at it when it stops, so it pretty much just stays hovering on top of the fire. But even then, it still took me 3 blaze grenades at best. At that point though, I don't find it really worth the cost of crafting these in my opinion. But yeah, it'll depend on you and on the situation, of course. I should also clarify that blaze grenade traps will have a similar effect. It took me 3 full blaze grenade traps to leave it on its final burning state, only a few shots away from death. So not really a difference there. Also, since we're on the subject of these fire utilities, why not continue the trend? I also tested fireball burners, and for fireball burners, I attempted 4 different fireball burners at it just to leave it once again a few shots away from death. Not a huge fan of this approach. What was kind of interesting though, out of the fire approaches, was the homemade flame spray. A little less than a full can of flame spray can kill a shredder, so if you do for some reason have a flame spray in your backpack, you can kind of kite it and solo it by burning it to death, and it's actually pretty good. It doesn't take that long either. But yeah, I don't really see many players using flame sprays out there, so this is probably going to be a rare occurrence. Now, as for the big new deadline mine, I want to start off by saying that yes, one solid deadline mine is enough to one-shot a shredder, so it's fantastic in that sense. But I personally found it really awkward to line up because of its rather long 6-second fuse time. If the shredder is already aggroed onto you, you kind of have to kite it around, yet try to keep it hovering above the deadline mine while you're not in range of it. So it kind of felt awkward to do that, and it kind of felt awkward to get it to work consistently. I also figured if I put a mine down, then aggro it and close the door on it as it got close to it, it would work pretty well. And yeah, it did work better, but I did have times where the shredder AI would just go a completely different path to try to get to me since that door was closed. Either way, yes, it is extremely powerful, but it can be awkward to use. You can always, of course, just pair the deadline mine with a jolt mine or a showstopper, which do, by the way, indeed stun these arc enemies. But at that point, I once again just find it too costly just for a shredder kill. But yeah, it'll be up to you. As for heavy fuse grenades, it's also very powerful at killing these. I found 2 really solid heavy fuse grenades will be enough, but it will once again be kind of awkward at killing shredders considering they're very fast arc enemies, and the heavy fuse does kind of tend to roll away from where you actually want it to land, so it's not the most effective, but it is pretty good. As for light impact grenades, I think this is one of the cheapest ways to kill a shredder, at least as far as utilities go. About 5 to 6 light impact grenades grenades will kill a shredder while staggering them and can be a pretty easy solution for dealing with them, especially considering getting a stack of light impact grenades is pretty easy and kind of cheap. By the way, just a bit of extra information, I also tested out the pulse mine. I know this isn't a deadly utility, but I wanted to see what it would do against a shredder. And no, it does not really stun them, but it does kind of send them flying up in the sky, which isn't much, but I guess it's kind of funny. As for the seeker grenades, this was another awesome surprise for me. I absolutely love these. 4 seeker grenades kills a shredder outright, and these are pretty cheap, but what I really liked about it is how easy it is to use. I tested it all types of ways, by just throwing directly at it or just throwing above it, and it really did not seem to matter. It will do this sort of hard lock-on homing that pretty much does not miss. This is one of my favorites for sure. The only downside is I personally do not have the blueprint for these seeker grenades, so best I can really do is just purchase 6 off of the traders. But yeah, when I do manage to get a blueprint, I could see myself maybe carrying a stack on a safe pocket for a quick shredder kill. But while on the subject of homing grenades, we also need to, of course, talk about the Wolfpack. The Wolfpack, simply putting it, does not really work on Stella Montis. It's not that it doesn't work against shredders, it's just not very good for this map. The way Wolfpack works is ideally you want to throw it up in the air, giving it some time to pop open and having its seeker missiles reach the arc target. But the problem is, with the exception of maybe 2 to 3 rooms on Stella Montis, like the lobby or the loading bay, there really isn't that much space for the Wolfpack to work with to open up and manage to find its targets. And by the way, even in those rooms, it doesn't really work very well for a couple of different reasons. So realistically, using a Wolfpack against shredders, at least as of right now on Stella Montis, is really not a very good idea. Now back onto some explosives. What about the explosive trap? It's not too bad, honestly, considering it's a very safe method. I found about 2 to 3 explosive traps did do the trick, depending how precise those trap explosions were, of course. But in my experience, even with a not so precise trap, I found that 2 traps plus a few Anvil shots did the trick just fine. Now moving on to the trigger nades, it's another very good solution. It has even more damage than the heavy Fuze nade, which can kill it in 2. So yeah, simply putting it, 2 trigger nades attached to the shredder's body will make quick work of it. It's probably one of the most efficient ways to kill the shredder in this list. As for the Snapblast Grenades, a stack of 3 of them will get rid of a shredder, which is also pretty good considering it's cheap and it's easy to use since it just kind of sticks to the shredder anyways. I also tested, by the way, throwing Leaper Pulse units. I found that with 2 Leaper Pulse units, you can kill a shredder, although this is kind of a niche utility to use, but yeah, 2 Leaper Pulse units and you will kill a shredder. Lastly, for utilities, we've got the new Trailblazer. This one was also taking me 2 to 3 throws, but it's a little bit more awkward to use as you kind of need a nice lineup on the shredder to maximize its damage output. Now for weapons, instead of testing literally every single weapon against it, I didn't really feel like that was going to do us any good. I felt that that would have just been a tremendous waste of time. So instead what we did is we picked a hard hitting weapon for each of the ammo types. So for example, for the light ammo, we picked the Hairpin, we picked the Renegade for the medium ammo, Anvil for the heavy, and the Toro for the shotguns. And of course, we also brought the legendary Equalizer. So for killing these with shots, you want to focus on their thrusters. Those are their weak spots. Getting rid of 2 thrusters renders them pretty much immobile. They really struggle to get to you, so that's kind of a really good way to cripple them. But if you do destroy all 3 thrusters, the shredder will just straight up die. But it can be kind of challenging to do that as it kind of always keeps its final thruster turned away from you. Now for the Hairpin representing the light ammo choices, I have to say this was actually kind of a pleasant surprise. 3 shots for each of the thrusters will destroy them, so if you use the Hairpin to just kind of silently snipe out 2 of its thrusters, you would pretty effectively cripple these arc enemies. I wouldn't recommend using the Hairpin for a full shredder kill, but it was surprisingly powerful at crippling them, considering it's silent and pinpoint accurate. For the Renegades, 2 to 3 shots per thruster cripples them very quickly. In my opinion, one of the best weapons for quickly crippling these extremely deadly enemies, considering the Renegade is extremely accurate and it fires pretty quickly as well. For the Anvil, we're looking at about 2 shots per thrusters. It's also a pretty good weapon to just fully kill the Shredder as well. So just get rid of the 2 thrusters and then a couple more shots to the body or the final thruster and you'll make quick work of these big fellas. What's also great about the Anvil is it has a really strong stagger on the Shredder, so it's a pretty safe way to actually deal with them. As for the shotgun, I think this out of the bunch that we've just tested is the most comfortable to solo a Shredder on. The reason being that not only does it take 2 shots per thrusters, but also that it's got the strongest stagger out of all the weapons we've gone over. So for this, it's about 2 shots per thruster, but of course it can vary depending on your shotgun spread. Now moving on to the Legendary Equalizer, you're going to be crippling these Shredders extremely quickly. A full mag was able to get me both thrusters pretty comfortably and a little bit of extra damage. After a reload, about a quick half second or so more of firing and the Shredder was done for. Indeed, extremely powerful, but realistically, are you going to be bringing an Equalizer for Shredders? I don't know, but well, the information is there. Now what is extremely powerful though is of course the almighty Hullcracker. The Hullcracker just straight up one-shot Shredders like it's no one's business. For the time being, bringing Hullcrackers into Stella Montes might not really be the greatest idea, but I'm sure we're going to be seeing Shredders in other maps soon enough. So it's going to be good to keep this information in mind. Overall though, much like most arc in this game, just nuking it with shots seem to be the most cost-effective way of killing them. But we've got quite a few utilities that work extremely well against them, so use this information as you please. That'll be all for today's video. I'll be catching you legends on the next one. Peace.